welcome to the Children's Media Association. A shout out to all of our wonderful members for joining us today. And those of you who aren't yet members, we hope you enjoy the panel and want to join the association going forward. We really aim as an organization to work individually and collectively to develop business best practices so that we can really enhance our kids' experience, shape their hearts, shape their minds, so that we can give them the best possible content as they grow up in the world. As some of you know, we are a nonprofit volunteer-run organization, and we're always looking for members to get more involved and join either our global or our regional team. So if you're interested, please do reach out through our website. We'd love to get everyone more involved. So on that note, let's get going with our news panel. We wanted to create a series on Asia Pacific. As content becomes more global, as content is essential that content travels, we wanted to develop this series to share more about the Asia Pacific region with everyone. And today, this is our very first panel on Asia Pacific, APAC 101. And we have Ryan from Pinkfong and we have Yong from Animonsta. So welcome to both of you. And it's wonderful to have you here and to learn from you and everything that you've been through to build both of your companies. We also have Don Anderson here, Don is a CMA mentor and he's the founder of Kaddadle and works very much across Asia Pacific, specifically working with these guys too. And we're really excited to have everyone here today and learn from all of you. So just a few high-level context pieces in terms of the Asia Pacific region that I wanted to share with everyone, and then Don will take us a little bit further into that. The Asia Pacific region occupies approximately 22% of the global land area of the whole world, which is huge when you think about these facts that I'm sharing with you. The region's population of 4.3 billion, that's as of 2021, equals about 60% of the total world population. Again, another staggering figure. And then more than 1.1 billion of the world's children live in the Asia Pacific region, which the region as a whole has a lot of diversity in terms of social, economic, and technological context, which is something that I hope we can talk about today. And then the region is also the home to a significant number of the world's megacities, including Tokyo, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, which happen to be also some of the most populous cities globally. So we're really laying for you guys sort of the foundation for how important this region is for all of us developing content across any vertical within kids and family media, and really wanted to dive into the conversation from here. Don, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Thank you very much, Susie, again, for giving us the opportunity to be able to share some of the insights coming out of our region. It's an exciting time, too. There's amazing work that's being done in this region, and we have two of the premier content creators, owners, distributors in the region with us today. So I hope you enjoy their perspectives and their journeys, too, as well. And we'll really get into what they've been doing themselves. But I've been in the region for about 22 years myself, and it's been quite the evolution, I think, of this this space. And the two individuals we have here are the ones that I think are in front of it, the forefront of the revolution that's happening in kids' content. So I'm not going to talk about me; it's really about them. But Susie did share some of the amazing stats that are happening, and again, that 2/3 of the world's population of kids coming from this region, a good portion of that, of course, coming from China, but that just kind of sums it up in terms of what's happening out here. It's an exciting time. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with some very general introductions. Of course, again, Ryan is co-founder, EVP, and CFO of the Pinkfong company. You may have heard of the little thing called Baby Shark. We'll talk a little bit about that, Ryan.
I think we all need to sing.
And Yong, who is also the co-founder and COO of Malaysia-based Animonsta, and Bobo Boy is the biggest IP out of your portfolio, but you have many others too that we're going to talk about. But let's start it off with Ryan. And Ryan, if you could maybe tell a little bit about your individual journey in the space of kids and family entertainment. I remember years ago when we were talking, it was at YouTube. You talked about the early beginnings of the three founders, yourself and your two colleagues, sitting around the table. I don't know if it was a boardroom or not, deciding on kind of where to put your energies. and you finally landed on this wonderful space, the kids space and education too as well. Could you share a little more about that?
Sure. Good evening and good morning to people. I'm quite happy. It's my great honor, to be invited to this wonderful organization and also to explain Asia. Yeah. Actually, I'm Ryan. I was born in Seoul, and before establishing my Pinkfong company, I have been working in online gaming business. On that area, actually, I have learned the importance of the interactivity and also something like some data-driven, decision or like that. And that maybe that time after iPhone is emerging to the world, maybe it's around 2009, I'm sitting with my friend and talking about what will we do? Like maybe going to be some huge thing will be happen. But unfortunately, I can't buy the Apple stock at that time. That's my one of the very sad thing. But anyway, we think of the work on a very promising business area. So actually, so many Koreans, they really advocate about something like early childhood education, even age of 2 or 3. So we Koreans think we're quite kind of something expert in terms of education. So how about we making some company that providing some education platform through smartphone or maybe something like iPad? So we decide to naming our company like Smart Study at the first time. That means study through smart devices. So we try to make something like Kuma or something like, similar to that to make, it's going to make something more easier, more faster. That was actually 2010. I think in this time it still work, but at that time, actually, smartphone is quite expensive device at the time, and more than that, iPad is always huge. So we tried to 1.5 years to make some impact on that area, but we have failed. So we think, how about we choose another segment? At first, we actually focusing K1 to K5 or K1 to K6. So we think that there is actually something like quite difficult because in terms of education, they should focus more than 15 minutes. But smartphone is actually mom's devices, so mom can't give it to their parent kids more than 5 or 7 minutes. So right. So I think how about we do something under that segment like pre-K. Actually, that's the beginning. And so we try to find something meaningful or something fun for both of the market. Actually, kid is actually final end user, but parent is something like a gatekeeper or sometimes economic buyer. So we should make both party happy. So we tried several things, but finally found that something like animated music video really works to both of them part. That's the beginning of the Pinkfong. Or that's the actually make something to make Baby Shark possible. Sorry, it's long.
No, Ryan, that's awesome. Ryan, we're going to come back to the where it took off on YouTube and the whole Pinkfong, but the Baby Shark explosion in a second here. I'd like to go to Yong Pin, and similar question is, it was you and a group of friends too. You said about 8, how was it back in what year was it? You're all sitting together?
2006.
2006. So
Wow. It's been 16 years.
Similar sort of situation. You were all together as how many partners of yourselves too as well? It's 4, is it?
Yeah. So on our side, I think my story is actually pretty similar to most of those out there that's like, aspiring artists, aspiring scriptwriter, director, we all of us, me and my partners, all of us are the same, whereby we grew up with certain animation. For me, it's Doraemon. And when we were watching it, we think that, why don't we make our own version of the animation that we love, right? So that's miraculously all of us get to meet together at the age of, I think, 22. And we started of course, we start working on at another company that created Upin dan Ipin, which was really popular in Indonesia. right now. We worked there 3 years, and we work on the Malaysian very first 3D animated feature film. It was our ultimate dream at that point of time, but we achieved it in 3 years, right? Then that's when the new question comes, like what's next, right? We have done the first 3D animated feature film because it used to be just we want to be like Toy Story, right? So suddenly, at the age of 25, we decided to venture out and open our studio, hence Monster, and then we start to find our bigger purposes, right? So on our side, growing up in the Southeast Asia region is pretty much different from the rest of the world, whereby we do not have any options of local content back then. It is always about the Japanese anime. It's always about the Western animations, right? So our kids does have some issues that we think that we need to solve. For example, we do not have good amount of confidence when we grow up. Like we don't have our own superhero, let's just say, right? So automatically the kids growing up will think that I'm not going to be better than the Japanese, for example, right? So those are the things that we are trying to solve using our show, right? So when the kids grow up, they learn something that, okay, I didn't expect our Malaysian companies or our Southeast Asian companies can also do something that is quite similar to the rest of the world. And then when they grow up into a engineer, a scientist, and whoever, or like my CEO used always say, maybe a president, right? So then they have a part of their childhood getting influenced by the characters that we have created, right? So that is the thing that we have been striving to until today. In fact, we are recruiting, or the way we recruit also looking for those aspiring artists, those people who are very passionate about contributing to the local scene, and how we can grow organically together and expand way further than Southeast Asia, right? So that's always our big motto, and that's why we have a whole animated universe behind us that we will check. Every single show will represent different values for the next generation. Yeah, so that's the conclusion, in summary, as overall, in short.
Yongpin, when you started out, you were 4. How big is your team now?
Currently, we are at 150 people right now. And I think average age is just like 25, 26 years old, very young, a lot of young artists over there. And we are entering a very interesting zone right now, whereby the new applicants, new team members are those who watch our show when they were kids. So yeah, I feel really old already, but that's really, yeah, that's really surreal for me as a person. but yeah, when we ask them why do you want to join us, they say, yeah, I grew up with your show, I love your show, that's why I grew up thinking that this is my dream job. So it's really, yeah, it's really something that money cannot buy for us.
With that creates an interesting opportunity, I suppose, is how do you actually work with those individuals of that age, but also be able to guide them in terms of getting their start in this space? Because we do have folks probably online here too, who are also looking at the space or trying to get a start or looking at the changing up their careers possibly. What is your advice to those who are looking and breaking out?
For us, it's very, very simple and straightforward. Usually we will just simply tell everyone that, this is our goal, right? So our goal is very simple, whereby we want to bring up our local content, to the wider exposure. And are you having the same dream as well, right? So if they are having the same dream, it's very easy when they get into our company, right? So usually we will just let them freely express what they want. And then definitely along the way, there will be some boundaries that they shouldn't cross, especially when we're dealing with the kids show, right? So there's a lot of things that, you need to back off a little bit more and all those things. So we have Roblox developer, which is 19 years old. We have script writer that is 23 years old, right? So those people, it's easy. Why I keep on saying that it's easy, because they grow up with our show. We don't need to teach them how to write a certain character. they already they have spent the most of their life memorizing every single sentence of the characters, right? So writing dialogues, creating the facial expression, animating it just feels so natural for them because it's normal for them. And then we just need to provide some how to say, I think in our company very much on guiding them towards their career path instead of telling them what not to do. It is very much like when they age up to 25, maybe you need to start to improve your soft skill. When you age up to 30, maybe you need to start leading a small unit, right? So it's very much towards that instead of you have to be this creative, you have to be that creative. Everyone are really good at what they are signing up for. We just need to guide them towards how to grow up together, right? So it's very simple.
But it
No
really
doubt.
also speaks to the timelessness of the property too, that you're now getting, such a lot, you're getting fans becoming employees. I think that's amazing. Yeah, I love that.
Yep.
Ryan, can we talk a little bit
Yeah.
about now your team? Again, when you started out, was the three of you. How has your team, or how big is your team in Seoul and globally?
Yeah, actually, we have around 300 in Seoul and 60 in Hong Kong and Shanghai and 10 in LA. We are just a 12 years old company. So unfortunately, we have not that kind of employee who enjoy the baby shack. But maybe I think 10 years later, some people who enjoy baby shack will come to our company. On that time, I will feeling same feeling like as a key. In terms of maybe motivating some employee in smart study, where I think autonomy is very important to decide what he really would like. Actually, my job is like something like not leader or something like some cheerleader to make them,
Yeah,
to
That's
makes
great.
sense.
to write a song, to something make some creative thing. Yeah. I think that's something essential with some creative business. We know that, I know, actually, I run a company, so efficiency is very important, but we can't predict because it's entertainment or show business. So effect is very important. So we give definitely some autonomy, to the
Ryan,
all
how
the
do you
staff in the
how do you
company.
navigate? So because you're so international and you've got folks globally, how do you navigate those areas of diversity and cultural considerations and team considerations to maintain a clear, what you're about, ensuring that everybody consistently follows that guide? How do you bring everybody together internationally?
Actually, the first time, almost every member was born in Korea, raised in Seoul, like that. So we are quite homogeneous. First time, we are very naive because kids are kids. So I think definitely that works to the life. Like in terms of animal, plant is very easy, but the real life is really something different. I'm gonna give us some example. Police car is one of our best-selling music video, but you know that the police car in Japan and US and Europe is quite different. They use different symbol, different color. So at that point, we have no way but to localize the video itself. Definitely we are dubbing every different language, but I never thought about the change about the graphic or design. So after that, maybe 2 or 3 years, we hiring many foreigners, and also we have experience in different country or different culture. So diversity is also very important, factor to make wonderful content. Yeah.
Your content is available in how many languages?
In terms of Baby Shark, we cover 25 languages.
25 languages. Yes, let's talk about the shark in the room. That was, sorry, I couldn't help it. That was the pinnacle moment. And when, for yourselves, that has been a defining sort of property for the Pinkfong company. Could you elaborate a little bit more about that sort of moment when it really broke? And I know it came in waves too as well.
Actually, the Pinkfong company, we hit the break-even point at 2012, but it's actually because of something like the revenue from the app. Actually, the first time we distribute our content through our own app. So people download our app for free. then enjoy two or three sample songs, and after that, they buy whole album. Yeah, it's like free to play, it's quite similar to game. Yeah, online game business. But that means people should have smartphone at first and should have download our app. It could be something like a Kaddadle. So we change into find another OTT or platform.
Right.
So I think uploading our content to YouTube is quite, yeah, game changer. Maybe Don, you're quite familiar with the YouTube, right? Yeah. Especially many of Asian kids, they spend lots of their time on YouTube. And also I think YouTube is something key driver to make K content popular all over the world, like it's K-pop or Baby Shark or something like K-drama.
Yeah, well, Psy was the first big one, right? That was the breakthrough
Right.
on YouTube for Korea and K-pop. But you were really right after that with Baby Shark. You last year, was it on June 29th, 2021, you celebrated 50 million subscribers. You surpassed 50 million subscribers alone on the Baby Shark channel on YouTube. That's quite the milestone. How did you celebrate? Did you celebrate for one?
Actually, we got something like the Ruby button from YouTube. So we make some trophy. Actually, Ruby button is quite some bespoke, right? They make it some tailored one for each channel. So in South Korea, I think Blackpink, the girl group, and Baby Shark, only two channel got the Ruby button. Yeah. But I think Diamond is more expensive, but YouTube like red color, that's the legendary name in Ruby button, right?
Yeah. It's a very rare award, definitely. You're one of few who have received that. But that was, what do you think was the real driver of success of Baby Shark? Why was it so, why did it take and get traction with globally?
I think there are 3 or 4 things to tell you. The first thing is that we don't have any legacy to Shark. In terms of Westerner, Shark is quite something very awful. Think about some old movie at first. But in South Korea, we have little legacy comparing to the Western people. So we think we could make something different. And second thing, during 8 years journey, we have found that children love something strong and fierce animal, like a lion, T-Rex, and eagle. So what's gonna be under the feet? Definitely shark. So we make one album focusing as something strong animal. So we make the song, music video about lion and T-Rex and shark. Yeah. Actually, shark is one of the songs on that album, but shark is more than that. Actually, family is a really universal thing. And we're talking about the family in terms of beginning from the kid, baby shark, mommy shark, daddy shark, grandma, grandpa. It's only 2 minutes, but cover almost every family member except aunt or
Extended family.
Yeah, right.
Brian, how many variations have you done on the video itself? Like, I know that
on the video, we have around 100, more than 100. Yeah. Wow. So we have a whole lot of song and characters, so it's very easy to make something like a variation. So we have some EDM style Baby Shark and also K-pop style or maybe Halloween, Christmas. We have lots of version. Yeah. Even we using the song and we change the lyric, and also we have song like something Monkey Banana or like that. Yeah. We have lots of something experiment through Baby Shark. Yeah. I think that's gonna be really works in YouTube and TikTok. Because kids love very simple and short form, and they would like to engage it. They would like to make their own thing based on using our IP. Yeah.
That's a good point. TikTok, a different type of shark or maybe elephant in the room. What is your perspective on the evolution of these platforms too as well? How are you adjusting your creative strategy to address TikTok, this TikTok generation of short form?
First thing, in terms of TikTok, I never talk, I only see, because I'm not the generation who understands TikTok. Yeah, I could understand YouTube, but in terms of TikTok, I have a little idea. So I just one step behind. I just setting a team, give them some budget, and not talk. Yeah, that's what I do.
Are you a big TikTok user though?
I rarely use TikTok, but in our company, there are lots of people who use TikTok. But we have found that in the content where comes in TikTok is a little bit different to the content on YouTube. So,
Yeah.
so we using lots of dance or very easy to follow dance, and we make some miming with some K-pop style, dance or choreography, and using our character, especially human character, that's working. So in terms of YouTube, many kids love something like animal character, but you have witnessed something, the human character like Moomba, Cocomelon.
Yeah.
But we have found that that kind of some human content is really working at TikTok. So we make some different style animation, for new platform. So
Right.
I think if new platform is into the world, the new opportunity will open. So many people think about the Angry Bird. It's early 20th century. Everyone download the app, maybe 4 or 5 in every day, and everyone use playing game Angry Bird. So for that popularity, Angry Bird became the something like character. It make animation, animate the movies, everything. So each new platform will be popular, then new opportunity will begin. Yeah. So
Awesome.
I let many of my friends, it could be more better to focus new platform rather than old media. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yongpin, same sort of question is with your strategy too as an organization and ensuring sustainability of your IP, and how are you looking at platforms, new platforms like TikTok?
During the rise of TikTok, I think it's in Southeast Asia, it was 2 years ago. I think it was the pandemic time, right? So again, I'm just like Ryan, right? I'm clueless about it. I heard of TikTok because of China, because they have another version of TikTok over there for the longest time already. So I was so, how to say, it was so confusing at the point of time, and I spent personally, I think 3 months every single night before I sleep, 1 hour using TikTok. Just try to understand because it was a decision whereby should we put our stuff on TikTok or if we were to decide we want to go on TikTok, what kind of content we should put up on TikTok. Definitely it's not going to be taking our full episodes from YouTube and then just make it vertical and then put it up there, right? So some key discovery that we have found because of COVID, kids time on devices, just skyrocketed, and of course they watch YouTube, they play games, and then they spend their time on TikTok. And in Southeast Asia, the parents are not that strict compared to the rest part of the world. They're strict academically, but not on the on the device thing. So usually after 6 months of lockdown or something, then suddenly we see every kids are using TikTok, right? And that's when we decide to go on it. It's not because of every kids are using it. It's very much of we are really concerned that what kind of content the kids are watching over there, right? So back then there's no content at all for kids. So they are watching people dancing, and all this kind of a lot of different types of content is not safe for kids, and we straight away reach out to TikTok people, and then we say to them, we're going to do something. We're going to do something that is customized just for TikTok, just for shorts, and then please support us, because I think there's a lot of kids right now, but they are exposed to the wrong stuff. I want you to serve our stuff to them, right? So good thing about TikTok is that their algorithm is really fast. Right, so the kids, if they watch our video for 3 seconds, next video is going to be a kids video, right? So what we did is actually we quickly did a spin-off family, fictional family from our show Bobo Boy, and then we do every single week, I think 15 to 30 seconds of slice of life kind of family story. Like, for example, the mother asked the father, what should we eat tonight? And then the father keep on suggesting stuff and the mother doesn't want, or rejected all every single idea, right? So very much relatable daily life family story within 15 seconds, right? So we put it up there and we see how it goes and kids enjoying it. And I think within 12 months, we get 2 million subscribers on TikTok, right? And it was crazy. And it turned out to be, we don't have to do dancing videos. We don't have to do just the jingle or any of the TikTok challenge. One of the policy that we have decided in-house, should we do the TikTok challenge using our character, or should we do set our own trend, right? So that's when we have decided, let's not do all this TikTok challenge. Let's just ignore the high views that we might get, focus on the audience that is currently on it, and what can be beneficial for them to when they watch our, maybe they spend 5 seconds watching our show on TikTok, that what can they learn, right? So and after that, we went into second phase. We use our character to collaborate with the TikTok creators. So these TikTok creators are not the influencers or celebrities or all those. Those are creators that are, for example, English teacher. For example, there are TikTok creators talking about science and planets. There are TikTok creators talking about engineering. So we use our character to appear side by side with the creators and then talk about those things, right? So kids really love it. The views skyrocketed again. And then we start to understand how to attend to that particular platform. Right. Next year, we will start to enter phase 3, whereby we will start to have live streaming using our characters. We are talking about maybe they can become also digital tutor using, our character. Live streaming is impossible using hand animated animation, right? So because it's 2 hours long, it's impossible for us to make, right? So now we have engaged with, facial capture, all these things, and we are trying it out. I think we'll start to roll out by next year. So using influential characters, putting it up on the platform is just a platform. We don't really need to choose a platform, but it's very much on what do you serve on that particular platform is more important. That's what that's always the conversation in our company, that when we decide something, we are glad right now we have total of more than 5 million subscribers. So we are glad that it turned out well and there's no backlash, because the backlash part, the negativity part, is the one that we are really careful of, right? So those are the things that will keep on evolving. Maybe one day there's no more TikTok, there's some other things, right? So that's the DNA and that's the policy that we always implement into our every single move in serving the content.
Can I ask a quick question? Just a follow-up. You said that parents are quite lax in terms of kids using cell phones or digital. What's sort of the average age that a child can have a phone that you guys are familiar with? Just because here TikTok is a little older, so I'm just wondering, because obviously you're succeeding incredibly well on TikTok. So are younger kids having phones? Like, what's the average age that a child has a phone or has access to a phone to go on social?
The thing about Southeast Asian kids, they don't really have their own device. So the parents are strict when it comes to their time spending on the device. Let's just say that, okay, every day you can only spend two hours. Let's just say something like that, right? So it goes as young as kids watching Cocomelon and Pinkfong, Baby Shark, right? So it's like toddlers is maybe 2 years or 3 years, one to 2 years old onwards. Our kids are exposed to it. But usually during the younger age, the parents usually monitor what they are watching, or in fact decide for them what they are watching.
They want to watch and cues it up. Yeah, okay, understand. Sorry, Don, go ahead.
No, it's a good point.
That is different. Yeah. So they get to choose what they want to watch, right? So, but it's still amount of the time they spend on the device is the one that has been decided by the parents.
Yeah.
It's a good
actually
point,
very different
Susie.
to country in Asia, but in terms of South Korea, I think maybe the K1, they have their own K1 or K2, they have their own devices like a phone or something like iPad. Yeah.
Is that like 5, 6, the same here? Is that about the same? 5, 6 years old? Is that?
They rarely have their own media, but they use some the family pad or mom's phone, quite similar to kids story. Yeah. So
Okay.
parents they should have some negotiation. How much time? How much screen time in your day? Using playing Roblox or watching YouTube or like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 hours of
Ryan-
studies and 2 hours of on device, right? So it's that kind of negotiation ongoing.
Have you done your homework? Okay, you can have an hour. Yeah.
Ryan, you're a dad. Is this of a concern to you too as well? I mean, the whole screen time issue. Do you worry about that as a parent?
Yeah, I think I little bit worried about it, definitely. Yeah, but I think it's inevitable. They are digital native actually, the kids in nowadays. So they're quite accustomed to touch everything, right? They even touch the TV at home.
Yeah.
And
It's
they are
not
quite
uncommon.
familiar with the UI, what Apple made. Yeah.
I mean, it's not uncommon, Susie, to go, say you're in the Philippines, and we used to have events at YouTube, and you go out at night after the event, and you'd walk by a restaurant, and you'd be like 9:30 at night, and you'd see a parent, family out for dinner, and the little toddler, maybe 1 or 2 years old, propped up in their little high chair at the table, flipping through the phone, or like watching something, not flipping obviously at that point, but watching something of nature, usually YouTube or YouTube Kids. So the exposure is pretty early often out here too. So while there's a lot of education that is still needed, and I think there's enough academic efforts out there to be able to drive that too. But I was looking at some stats. 80% of all children in Asia use a smartphone daily, and 61% have their own smartphone. So that's the agency, totally awesome. But it's it's pretty hard to avoid.
I wonder what that compares to the US. I'd have to look that one up, but I'm not sure it's that high, right?
Not sure about the US, but it's it's, and then again, as Ryan said, that's certainly been the driver for the success of properties like Baby Shark. Yong, can you, now we're talking to a group here who may not be necessarily all that familiar with your own IP. Could we talk a little bit about your specific IP from Bobo Boy to Makamoto and Yala too as well?
Yep. So,
and if you could even add like your creative process, like in how we were talking about in terms of thinking about how you can reach kids on multiple platforms from the beginning, I think that's really important as well.
Okay, cool. So when we started Monster, back then in 2009, we were deciding that what kind of show that we want to create next after the OPA Pin success in the Southeast Asia region, right? So the very first one that came across our mind is definitely superhero. I know it's nothing fancy, right? Superhero, everyone does superhero, right? So but back then, for us, we as Southeast Asian, we have an issue to solve, whereby growing up with foreign media for the past decades, as well as with our history books, keep on talking about how we lose in war, how we get colonized, how we are sort of like loser to every single thing. we turn out to be a generation that has very low self-esteem. There's a lot of things that we grow up. If we are an athlete, we think that we won't be able to surpass anyone from the West, from the Japan, because we grew up with their media, right? So they have the best superhero, they have Spider-Man, they have Naruto, they have so many powerful characters, right? And we have some characters coming from village life, right? So back then, that's when we start to decide, let's give our kids their own superhero. We don't want our next generation like us. When we meet the Japanese, we start to feel that we are not a better nation than them. We are not, okay, we are not. But that doesn't mean that we cannot, right, be a better nation in the future, right? So that's when we start to decide to make Bobo Boy. Back then, it's still very much on the free TV platform time, and then we start serving our. We have only a team of 15 people back then. We've more than half of them are intern. We produced our first season, put it up, don't know what to expect, right? So it turned out to be, I think, episode 4 suddenly it become a nationwide hit. So when we start to churn out that show, one of the biggest thing that we are trying to achieve is to dethrone the viewership champion for the past 30 years, which is Doraemon. I grew up with Doraemon. That is the champion in Malaysia for the past 30 years. And when we produce Boy, that's the very first thing that we want to defeat. So and then after 4 episodes, we successfully did that. And then the rest are history, right? So it become phenomenal in our country, and then we start to export it out to the neighboring countries like Indonesia, and it become also another phenomenal hit in Indonesia. And then every broadcasters in this region start to ask, what's next, right? So keep giving us more. And then that's when we start to know people like yourself, Don, people like Leslie, right, from the Disney Channel, from also currently Cartoon Network, right? So we start to talk to more people that start to see our potential and start to let us know what's happening globally. Like it or not, we are from Malaysia, and Malaysia is not famous for any content producing. It's not a content producing hub. It's not Korea. It's not Japan. It's not US, right? So we have almost no understanding about kids' behavior around the world. We just do something that we think we know, right? And then with better understanding, we talk to toy companies, pitching to them, showing them what's going on with our next show and all those things. Then we start to have a better understanding right now. So that's why we created our second show called Mekamato. Currently, it's on Netflix and Cartoon Network. It is the first time ever a Malaysian produced show gets to air across the whole Asia Pacific, including even Japan and Korea and Australia, of course, Southeast Asia region. And it's actually something very shocking also to the people from the Cartoon Network side, because usually they will let each counterpart to decide, like, do you want this show? Do you think this show will work in your country or not? Right. So it is very surprising for them that their counterpart in Korea and Japan say yes at the same time, because usually they have different tastes altogether, right? So which come to our next point when it comes to the creative process is that we Southeast Asian have something quite unique, whereby we grow up with various media, right? We grew up with Hong Kong movies like from Stephen Chow and Jackie Chan, and we grew up with the Japanese anime. We grew up with even Bollywood films, right? So ultimately, when you spend so much time watching all this kind of media, somehow you will have some kind of understanding. Like, if I want to create a show for the Japanese, I think it is something like this, right? So we start to have understanding. In fact, we learn about that understanding when we were kids, right? So we will start to think, like, we start to recall that when we were kids, why we love Dragon Ball so much, why we love Ultraman so much, why we love Power Rangers so much, right? So we start to pinpoint some keywords, and then we keep on saying to our scriptwriter team, whatever we do, don't run away from that. Don't run away from the keywords, because kids are kids. Kids are not as complicated as adults think they are, right? So kids, when they are born, they are highly imaginative. They are very curious and all those things. So make sure to follow those keywords. Never ever start to get into technical stuff. Never ever start to go into this. I want to make the best rendering or hair simulation of all time, right? So those are the things that usually in our thought process and how we build our IP.
Ryan, can we go to you on that? Baby Shark obviously was a huge and has been a huge success. What is your creative process? You mentioned giving the teams autonomy, but what is your typical creative process in developing new IP? Pinkfong was an IP that you actually really developed out and has been successful across other iterations. You're doing a movie, as I understand too, as well. Could you explain a little bit about your internal sort of approach developing new IP?
Yeah, actually, creating new IP is very difficult and also very different. Actually, we have around two parts. in right hand, we would like to exploit, the baby shark and ping pong. We create lots of variation or collaboration with another IP. We have some collaboration with the Brown, the character of the line, and also collaboration with Hello Kitty, So that makes some fresh touch to our existing IP like Baby Shark and Pinkfong. But in terms of new IP, we think about the different segmentation actually. The kids who enjoy Baby Shark now come to 10 or 11 or 12. So, but they only got Pinkfong is the content, especially for baby or toddler. So they want more than that. They love something like Roblox or Pokemon or some dual thing, and even girls, they are turn into 10 or 11, they fall in love with K-pop or K-pop, K-idol. So we definitely would like to make something, competition with that existing giant like Pokemon. So it's quite hard, but we would make something, based on what we are good at. It's like we are very good at to create catchy song. So based on that, we would make something, So
But Ryan,
creating new IPs, very difficult and very different, but we're also thinking about something creating Web 2. That means some manga through smartphone,
Very
that's
cool.
very interesting. How, Ryan, though, you've diversified into so many different areas of business too as well. You are both actually, Yongpin and Ryan, your both businesses are very 360. You have a very strong, Ryan side, you have a very strong international presence in licensing and merchandising. I attended a Pinkfong, I should say, Baby Shark event here in Singapore, which was phenomenal, stage show. Could you explain a little bit more about that strategy of diversification and ensuring that you're kind of across, and how do you plan for that?
So on our end, it's very much, again, our business usually run because based on some kind of desperation, right? So on our end, it's very much that we spend a lot in making our content to ensure that, it's high quality and all. And it turned out to be content sales doesn't really add up for our business. Then we start to study what's the real business behind any animated or IP businesses, right? Because Disney not going to tell you that, all the other big brands not going to let you know about that. They will only share with you on the box office result, right? So on our end, again, is whenever we have certain decision to make, we always put ourselves in the shoe of the audiences. We don't simply choose that, okay, it would be fun if we do a theme park, let's do a theme park right now, right? So it's very much on what potentially the audience want after watching the show, right? So for our case, maybe for Boy, we have hundreds and hundreds of characters. Maybe they want trading cards. Maybe they want to play with something, right? So that's when we start to venture into the consumer product businesses. We headhunt people from 7-Eleven. We start to produce our own merchandises, and then we start to distribute nationwide. All these things, right? Of course, on aside from it, all the new venture, the metaverse, the Roblox, and all these other things. So all are the things that what the audience want after watching the show, the extended experience, what we call, right? So they might want to play, they might want to learn, they might want to collect, right? So and they might want to engage with us in some way or another. So maybe in Ryan's case, it's the live show, right? So the parents and the young families, they want to enjoy things together. So instead of deciding certain things based on purely numbers, because numbers will come, right? The revenue, the business will come if we do the right decision on what potentially the audience want, right? So that's what we usually strategize on. And to be honest, it's tough because inside the board, among us and the partners, every single day we have new ideas, like new brilliant ideas, right? On next up tomorrow, let's do something like this, right? And we have to go through all this filtering process. We have to start keep on asking that, is this something the kids want, the parents want? If it is not, let's not waste our time over there, although it has a short-term burst in terms of revenue, right? So those are the things that usually in our thought processes.
And what have been the most successful extensions that you've experienced over the years?
For now, it's definitely the trading cards.
Okay, very cool.
Oh,
So-
great. Yeah.
One of the things that I want to share about the story behind why we decided to make trading cards is that we ran premium campaigns with one of the biggest chocolate paste brand from Indonesia called Choki Choki Mayora. So you know those premium campaign that you buy 3 chocolate paste and you get 1 trading cards, something like that.
Yeah.
So they ran that campaign with us for the past 2 years, and then they have, throughout the campaigns, they have distributed more than 330 million pieces of trading cards. 330 million pieces of trading cards. I know it's Indonesia plus Malaysia, but
Are these cardboard, like real trading cards, or digital? They're
it's
real.
just
Yeah.
real printed, low quality
Wow.
trading cards. That's when we start to realize, wow, there's a lot of people want to collect our stuff.
Yeah.
Right, and we don't really get much from that deal, right? So on our end, then we start to also at the same time we became the master licensee for Pokemon in Malaysia, right? And we start to see the numbers and all those things, right? So then we start to decide, our biggest thing is actually the assets, the characters. The kids love the characters; they want something to collect, right? So then we start to produce our own trading cards. I think right now we have more than 20-30 millions sold already. So that's just Malaysia, right? So that's why for us is a very successful extension for Southeast Asia, because Southeast Asia need to have this low purchase cost products, right? So those are the things that we will keep venturing forward. Moving forward is definitely digital products. Is what we are eyeing for.
Cool, very cool.
Hey, Ryan, just before you start off on your story too, there's a question from Rachel. She's asking, what is the strategy, and this is kind of related to the earlier question, behind the decision to do a Baby Shark co-pro with Nickelodeon? So that's a bit to the diversity.
Yeah, right. Thank you for the wonderful question. Yeah. Actually, Baby Shark is begins from a very short song. Yeah. It's actually, we never thought about it could be some global IP before. It's just something cast some people in the music video. So that means it don't have name, it don't have conflict, it don't have narrative. So I have seen the success of Gangnam Style, but it's only a song. After 5 or 6 months later, it have no way but to fade down. So I would like to make some evergreen content. So I have checked something like Disney, what they do. But I think the most important thing is a story or narrative or some like a habit. But in terms of habit, I think Netflix is not that good. They just binge watching everything and they gone. They find another content. On Nickelodeon, some old media, we have some habit. Like every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m., I sit down in front of TV, I see something. It's like a ritual. And it going around maybe 3 or 4 or 6 months, then it will be inside your brain. Yeah. I think that's the building of the character or IP. So that's the reason I'm working with Nickelodeon. Yeah. Actually, I love Disney, but Disney is a bit more prefer to do by oneself or by others.
I also think music is an amazing medium to connect people. Like, it transcends culture, it transcends, everything. I think, and that's something that I think with Baby Shark, everyone just wanted to sing your song. You know what I mean? And we're all doing it. I think that's wonderful too. All right, should we take some questions? Karen, Yona, do you want to ask some of the audience questions too?
Yeah, I see a message. Great questions, everyone. A question from Connie. Are there any tips for producing and funding your first series?
If it is the first one, okay. So of course, this thing depends on how big is your team to begin with. So for example, in our case, we started off with a team of only 7 people. So my advice to most of the first time series or content producer is not to straight away jump into the final picture, whereby a lot of people tend to do, I want to produce a show with 52 episodes times 11 minutes. And then you do the math, and then it turned out to be millions and millions of dollars. And then you talk to funders and nobody want to fund it, right? So it's always like that, right? So on our side, we are very much more, how to say, realistic, because again, in our part of our world, we don't have established ecosystem whereby there's investor for animated series, there's broadcasters going to co-produce with you. There's no such thing back then. So on our side, it's very simple. We have 7 people, we do a test, right? So 7 people keep on producing for 1 month. How many minutes can we come up with, right? So let's just say that we can come up with 3 minutes, right? Then we start to think, okay, 1 month we can do 3 minutes. Let's do a concept trailer. Right, let's do a concept trailer and start talking to companies like Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, and local broadcasters and all those things. See if they are interested. And usually it will turn out to be, I'm interested if you have more. Right, so that's normal. That's typical. But from there, you will get a better feedback for your pilot, and then you straight away you will start to produce your pilot. Right, so maybe you spend the next 3 months, working day and night to produce a decent pilot. Then you start to talk to people again. And then if you are lucky, then that's when you start to secure pre-sale. Right, you start to secure one party. They will not give you letter of intent or whatever, but they will give you an interest that, okay, if you complete this season, I'm going to buy this show. Right, that's when only you start to talk to the funders. Right, because with nothing, it's impossible for you to talk to the funders. But for us, to be honest, we don't even, for the first season, we don't even talk to funders. For us, it's very simple. We have 7 people. We hire another 8 people of interns. We work day and night. We literally sleep under the table, to be honest, during our first season for the past 18 months. And we complete one season and put it up there. Right. So back then, we do not have YouTube. Okay. But now content creators are way more lucky, because you have direct to consumer channels. Why I say that is way more lucky, because you can start sharing your 3 minutes clips, or in fact 30 seconds, because TikTok is available right now. So 30 seconds and all this, you start building your numbers over there. Funders want to see numbers before they fund you. So don't go to them with ideas, right? So when you put it up there, then it's way easier for you to convince people. So that's usually how. Don't scare the funders away with your big ideas, your ultimate goal, and all those things. You just show them, okay, I've done 1 minute, I put it up there, and I get 100,000 views. Right? Imagine when I have 300 minutes. Right? So everyone automatically will be, way easier to fund your show, right? Using that method, right? So that's usually the advice we tell people to do, but it's going to be tougher path, right? But that's the more realistic way of doing things.
Well, another question for both panelists. Do you have any tips for marketing YouTube channels? So do you buy advertisements? Do you rely on online articles? How do you guys approach that?
Yeah, maybe Ryan.
Yeah, in terms of Baby Shark Pinkfong, we regard, buying advertisement is very important. Yeah, it's like some prime water. It's something like a wind. Yeah, makes them flow. At first, we try to we make lots of trial and error to something like to find out the algorithm of YouTube, but it's very hard. But anyway, I think every team should have some test with very small of the money at first. Then they will get to know. Yeah.
Understand.
So I highly regard to buying advertisement on YouTube or maybe even TikTok.
Yeah. On my end, it's a bit more different, because we have 15 channels and currently we have more than 20 million subscribers. Until today, we haven't spent a single cent actually on our YouTube. Everything is organic. But the main difference is that we put all of our full episodes. I mean, that's when we start talking to Don, right? It was a crazy move in 2014, whereby we put our full episodes first on YouTube. customer were not happy because it was 2014, it's not 2022, right? So if you do it now, nobody care. But back then it was a crazy move, but we did it for one whole season, and it grew like crazy. Right. And then from there, word spreads and all those things. But to be honest, I don't know if that works anymore nowadays, because there's a lot more YouTube creators compared to when we started back then. And also, to be honest, we received huge amount of support from Don and the team from the YouTube side. And now maybe it's totally different case altogether. But until today, we still haven't spent a single cent on marketing on YouTube. But we might do that on when it comes to expanding into other countries, maybe. But for now, not yet.
On that topic, there was a significant change, and we all went through it. You particularly was the change in the COPA policies and advertising on YouTube, and that's kind of affected a lot of platforms too as well. Can you talk a little bit about that and what kind of implications that meant to your businesses too? Because that, just for context, in around 2020, COPA made some major changes in terms of how platforms could obviously allow advertisers to reach children. And it became less about data targeting and more specific to content targeting. But that had changed the fortunes of a lot of creators on the platform, including our partners here. Ryan, would you be able to talk to a little bit about that and what the implications were to you?
Yeah, so in nowadays, actually, we are one of the users to using some targeting advertisement. It's quite, we know the aim, we just targeting. But in nowadays, non-targeting advertisement is only possible in terms of kids content. And also we can check what kids really think about our content. Yeah. So we have some interview or some observation. It's the only way to find out what they like. Or maybe I'm in the road or at the restaurant to find what kind of content they are watching and their reaction. That's almost the only way. Yeah.
Do you both test your content before you launch it, or is it more launch it and see how people react?
We try to have some test before launching, but it's quite difficult to find. But in only music, they are not sure what they like it or not. In terms of sketches, they are not quite sure. So we have no way but to create very short form content, maybe 2 or 1.5 minutes, and we just upload in YouTube and TikTok. Then after we find it gonna working, on that case, we make it more longer or make some different style. Yeah.
Very cool.
So actually, YouTube is like our test bed, actually.
Well, and you
And
both
also marketing
migrated.
channel.
Oh, sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
No. Yeah.
I was just gonna say you both migrated from YouTube to streamers. And just wondering, like, do you then not have the content on YouTube? How do you manage those relationships when you partner with, a Nickelodeon or whomever?
Not really, because for us we don't really need to choose. Whereby is for us is very much on that. The more platform it is, the better.
The better. That's great.
Right. Yeah. Right. So on our end, we don't really migrate anything away from YouTube. In fact, I'm pretty sure YouTube also, they are coming aggressively on YouTube Shorts and all the other things, right? So COPA, this hit is quite big, not just on the form of revenue, but like Ryan said, it's on the content engagement, the comments and all the other things. But there's no point whining about it, right? Because it's not going to change. So on our side, ever since when we turn off the comment, it actually benefits us, whereby we are more clear on what to do when it comes to making our next content. Because when you are reading content, the feedback too much, especially kids content, because those who are typing in the comment section not necessarily are the kids, right? So for example, our shows, right? So those maybe there are a lot of comments talking about, I want this character to die. I want more development on this particular character. This is fan favorite when you read on the comment sections. But when it comes to the kids, it's different, right? So they would love to have more power upgrades. right? So it's totally different. So when we turn off the YouTube comments, actually it helps our creative team a lot more. But of course, in order to get the response from the kids, we need to go more aggressively on the focus group, talking directly to the kids more often, and it helps a lot. It helps a lot.
And do you ever do exclusive content for certain channels, or you just put all content on all channels?
No, I won't say it's for specific channel. It's very much on specific format. Mm-hmm. So like the content I said I put it out on TikTok is also appeared on YouTube Shorts as well as Insta Reels, right? So it's the same format but different platforms.
Yona, do we have one more question, and then we will let you guys go? You've been incredibly generous with your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So another question. For both panelists, do you ever need to sacrifice creativity for curriculum? And if so, how do you handle that?
Good question.
Yeah, Ryan, maybe.
At first, actually, we're starting to make some ed tech. Yeah. So we are quite focusing on the education at first time. But now our content is something about 80% for fun, 20% is for meaning. Yeah. I think in terms of kid content, the fun factor is very important. So I think maybe to boosting them to make some thinking about something is, I think, more important than the curriculum, to teaching about the number or alphabet or like that. So in terms of raising creativity or curiosity is more important than just regular curriculum.
And imagination too, I think. Yeah.
The beautiful thing about creativity is that it has no exact boundary. It's just your brain is the one that's thinking that, okay, I want to do something like this, right? So creativity is not the thing that we need to sacrifice in certain sense, whereby it's more towards it's a tool for us to use to express in, let's say, if this curriculum, then use your creativity for curriculum, right? So nobody is saying Sesame Street is a boring show, right? So because it's really creative, right? So it's very much up to the person who is writing it or thinking about it. Okay, who is going to be my target audience and what it is for? If I'm going to talk about 1, 2, 3, and how do I make it creative? How do I make it fun? Not the other way around. Like there's a lot of people, film producers, for example, keep on saying like, censorship limits our creativity. It doesn't work that way. For us, it's like with boundaries, that's when you get more creative, right? So kids content, right? So kids content, there's a lot of boundaries. So that's why you get even more creative. That's why we need people like us, right? So it's not the other way around. It's definitely like this. If you are creative, your brain will be able to do something really fun to accommodate to a certain purposes.
That's great. All right, Don, any last questions? Are we good?
The one in the room too is the metaverse.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe the last question of the day would be like, that's the future forward looking. Ryan, you launched a Baby Shark NFT. What prompted that? What's the kind of outlook for something of that again? And how well did it perform?
Actually, many people, talking and thinking about what's going to be the next thing, next to YouTube. So we like to, make some tests. Our NFT is just a profile NFT. But nowadays, many NFT, they must have some usage in the real life. Everything is quite changed very fast. So maybe next time I'm going to make some new Baby Shark NFT, that's going to be something like maybe some entrance ticket to Baby Shark theme park, or maybe some discount coupon to Baby Shark merchandise. So everything should be combined. Yeah, that's my belief. So I think, so that means the metaverse should get along with our real life.
And Yong, you've planned your first venture into Roblox.
Yeah.
I've spent like I think it was like 2 or 3 hours, right, in Singapore, talking to Don about what should we do in metaverse. There's a lot of things going on, all this crypto and all these other things, right? So one simple thing Don just told us is very simple. do it for the kids because that's what you are good at, right? So we are not a blockchain company. I mean, at least not yet, right? So we focus on the kids. That's why we go into the metaverse, into Roblox, right? More Roblox, Minecraft. You know, those segments are the segments that I know it's pretty primitive for the time being, right? Just remember back then when our day was the Game Boy before PS4, right? So it's the beautiful thing about focusing of our switching our focus to metaverse only for kids is that these are the generations that's going to be the biggest user base for metaverse, because metaverse will take 10 years to build. It's not going to be us that's going to be using the metaverse. Okay, as much as we would love to do it, right? but we will be too old for that. Okay, but it's going to be the kids right now, which is 10 years old, who are actively into Roblox, and they will switch to another metaverse platform, and their behavior will stick with them. They will shop in metaverse, they will play in metaverse, they will watch movie in metaverse, right? So it's going to be these audiences. So that's why we are all actually sort of focusing and betting on them, to stay with us on that. So that's why tomorrow we'll be launching our very first Roblox open world collect robots venture for the kids and all those things, right? So hopefully kids that watching our animated universe, they get into Roblox or maybe some other projects in the future, they have an extended experience in it, and they grow up into a different behavior, and all we need to do is just to follow their behavior. So we don't have to reinvent anything at the point of time, right? So I don't have to open a Web3 company suddenly and start to recruit all the tech savvy guys and do all those things, right? So what I'm hoping right now is like all of the metaverse projects out there being very successful. Maybe the Meta coming from Mark Zuckerberg one, maybe Epic Games, maybe Lego, all of this successful, and then I just need to park my attraction inside it. It's very simple, and kids will just go there, right? So it's very simple, right? So that's the thing that we are moving into, and I hope maybe next time when we meet, we will have more figures and more result to show at the point of time when we are talking about different things altogether.
That's great. Well, we cannot thank the three of you enough for sharing your insights, your knowledge, your wisdom. I really think this was amazing for our members to listen to you guys and learn from you guys in terms of your incredible careers and everything that the three of you have done. We really, really appreciate it. And hopefully this is the first of many where we learn more and more about Asia Pacific. All right. Thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. Thank you, you guys. And we will sign off. Thank you.
Thank you.